Hello, my name
Hello,
is
my name is
Joseph
Joseph
Pirayou. I want to
Pirayou. I want to
welcome you to
welcome you to
today's
today's
program
program
on
on
In the
In the
Beginning,
Beginning,
Ashur.
Ashur.
As always,
As
this is
always,
a
this is
live
a live
program. Any
program. Any
questions, any
questions, any
comments you
comments you
have,
have,
you want to
you want to
send it,
send it,
put it on
put
the
it on the
screen. We can
screen. We can
answer.
answer.
Uh,
Uh,
we'll be
we'll be
taken care
taken
of. If
care of.
not, we
If
go
not, we
through
go
the
through
what
the
we call
we
a
call a
question and
question and
answers.
answers.
Anyway,
Anyway,
today
today
is I
is
think
I
would be
think
the
would be the
last
last
part
part
on the
on the
book,
book,
the
the
Assyrian
Assyrian
Revelation.
Revelation.
Uh,
Uh,
the past two programs, the first program we did was about the author, Dr. Reverend John Bucco Sr. I think we have a photo of this gentleman. As I mentioned, the past couple of programs, John Bucco, Pastor John Bucco, he's 102 as of November of last year, like 2, 3 months ago. And he has written this book, The Assyrian Revelation, that I have talked about the actual book last program. That is turning down. There you go. Yep. Anyway, um, and the last program I took some portions of the book, not to criticize, but the information that is being shared in a book that is named Assyrian on it. So every time I see that whoever is writing or making comments on social media, anything like that, they are representing us. So you would like to have correct information out there, right? I mean, that would be uh, logical. So I picked a couple of parts that in the book that he's writing about our origins, like one of the grandsons of Noah, son of Shem, Ashur. That's how it started, and uh, I didn't want to go too much that way, but they put it in a book. Some non-Ashuri reads this book. He says, "Oh, you guys came from a person. You worshipped a man, not actually unseen creator. You made a man a creator." If they read this book, and they say it's in the Bible, and that's the issues that you have sometimes. Okay, how to share information about somebody that spent his time, about us, about our history, about our faith. There is so much information in this book. But before I go through that, so last program I asked uh, you watching this program, and I really appreciate the time that you spend. The half an hour, very precious time that you have, and you spend watching this. So I really appreciate it on YouTube and on Facebook. And one question that I asked was that, does anybody know, have you ever heard of this book, that's in Revelation, or anybody knows the author? And then, uh, can we show this? I made a post, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, one day ago. And I have over some 2,000, maybe close to 3,000 Facebook friends. And I asked, has anybody read this book? Does anyone know anything about the author? And in the other photo, I'm going to show you how many comments and how many reactions I received regarding this. So there is like nothing, comment nothing. I don't know what send is, but nobody shared it. So I was like, okay, I have about 3,000 Facebook friends, and the past, on average, between Facebook and YouTube, there's about 2,000 of you weekly watch this program. So when I was like thinking about this, like few things came to my mind. I know most people when they have a Facebook, they see posts. They just scroll, I don't care. It's just fine. But you're trying to get a feel out there, what is going on. If I just the common sense, it shows that nobody knows about this book. Nobody knows about the author, right? That would be the thing. Stella, my wife, was saying, "Bill, they don't like you. That's why they don't comment." I said, either way, that's fine. We're good. but you're trying to get the feel out there, you know. And this book came out in the year 2001, which year 2001 was a very like a year that changed so many things in the world, you know, with September 11, 2001, when the attacks happened in the United States, the towers collapsing, you know, airplanes hitting buildings. The door opens somehow. Maybe you don't look at it this way, but once everything settled after that attack, some people say it was a made up, Americans did it. Doesn't matter. Who, not that doesn't matter, but the issue is not here who did it, who didn't do it. But September 2001, when US and their allied attacked Saddam and kicked him out, a door opened for our people in Iraq to do something. Because once Saddam was there, nobody could do anything. You know, he was, you know, dictator, whatever you want to call that. Nobody. But 2001, after the attacks, the United States attack Iraq, and Saddam Hussein was arrested, hung, and the country was like, whoever was strong took over. So boom, KRG, or the Kurds, North Iraq, our people, Zoa, democratic movement, whatever we had, it showed how weak we were, as far as weak, not strong, that they couldn't do anything. But it was a very interesting, when I looked at the date, 2001, when this book was written, was an interesting time in the history of the world and us. Anyway, why am I bringing this up is that, as I said, the author has written a book. He's our brother. I'm sure he has belief that someday Ashur, or we're going to get our land back. And I'm just going to go through a few things here before I say what I really want to say about, because I'm not going to read too much. Just going to share some information that, I mean, if you want, you can read the book, buy the book and read, you know, all the information is in there. But generally, the contents that we have in this book is about telling about us to the world, or reminding us, the Ashuri, who we are, our history, things like that. And generally, it talks about, you know, where Assyria is, our land, the map of the empire, kings, queens, Shamiram, queen, about the Nineveh, the fall of the empire, talks about archaeology, Epic of Gilgamesh, and then it says who we are, which that was the part that I had issue with, and I showed archaeologically that we are not descended, our people are not descended of a person that they made God and they are worshiping him. But other than that, he writes about our accomplishment, the fall of Ashur, the continuity that we have, World War I, World War II, our history in Turkey, in Iran, what the effect the Russian had on us during the First World War, the Bakuba refugee camp, on and on. And then there is a part in this book that he mentions that where about us that we are being mentioned in the Bible. There's a big section on that. About Nineveh, the story of Jonah that goes there. He writes here about what they call it, the actual scripture, Isaiah 19, what he's talking about, you know, the future of us being blessed, bringing blessing to the world. And there's a part that he talks about our language, and it's very interesting. The part that he starts mentioning our language about, you know, it says Aramaic, Assyrian, translation of the Bible of our language. Then he mentions Dr. George Lamsa. George Lamsa is the one who translated the Bible in English from the ancient Eastern text. These are our ancestors. And I don't know how to put it in a nice way, but John Bucco knows about George Lamsa and the book, right? And he picks parts of that George Lamsa talks about, the translation that George Lamsa has done, right? But it doesn't mention anything about Exodus 3:14. Because if you I don't know how to put this the right way, either mention something and cover the whole thing, or don't talk about it at all. You know, excuse me. He talks about George Lamsa, Dr. George Lamsa, and the book that I just show you, that how you know the language of Jesus is a living tongue, Aramaic spoken still by Church of the East. This is from 1947, The Protestant Voice. And he mentions here about so many things that in the book that is translated by Dr. Lamsa, that it's different. Like, there is that story that Jesus talks about these rich person, that a rich man is like how do you say that, cannot enter kingdom of heaven like a camel going to the eye of the needle. And George Lamsa says the translation is not Gumla, is gemla. It's like a thick rope going through the eye of the needle. The translation that we have here by Dr. George Lamsa is the correct way because of the language, our ancestors, and he has found out. So I was surprised that he did not mention anything about one of my favorite parts of the translation, Exodus 3:14. And God said to Moses, I am Ahia Ashur Chaya, that is the living God. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel. How come that part was not mentioned? But maybe I'm getting too picky on this. Anyway, I'm not going to go, as I said, too much. I'm just going to say what is covered in the book. You guys want to buy it. If you can find it, great, go for it. So there's a part that it's talked about Assyrian language, then about our Christianity in our people, First Nation to follow Christ, apostolic missions that we have done. Then he talks about Tatian, which I covered, the first century Ashuria missionary, I guess. Then it covers the stories, this story about the League of Nations, United Nations, things like that. And 24 years ago, this book was published. As I said in the past two programs, this is the reason John Bucco Sr. is writing this. I am writing this book for Assyrians to give them hope, non-Assyrians to inform, young people to inspire, all Christians for the revelation of God's purposes and plans. So I don't know how many books was sold to have the effect 24 years ago, but I don't know, has this part been achieved, that he's writing this book for Assyrians to give them hope? What is giving hope, right? And of course, non-Assyrians to inform. This guy goes to Egypt, meets the president at that time, Hosni Mubarak. Then he goes to Israel and meets the prime minister, Menachem Begin of Israel, and is out there. And I don't know if you remember the last programs that I've done. when comparing the history of Israel, the history of Israel before 1948, that they became a nation accepted by United Nations. Just put it on me. Don't worry about the photos. So yeah. So back in 1948, when Israel became a nation, right? It just didn't happen overnight. When you look back in the history, 200 years in 1700s, there were a couple of religious people in Europe, in Eastern Europe. They started telling people, we need to get back home. We need our land. These were religious people talking about the prophecy that was in the Bible about the Jewish people having their homeland. To me, this was an opportunity because this guy is a preacher. He's a nationalist. He's saying Ashur will rise. 24 years ago, the book was written. And apparently, nothing. I don't know how many non-Assyrians were informed about us, how many of us Ashuri were able to be hopeful, as if this book existed, but throw it away. Because why are you writing a book? What is it? Just to make millions? I don't think, unfortunately, John Wilco, I don't think he made that kind of money on this book, you know. But let me see what time we have. But there is a message being sent. We have these books here by Assyrian about Assyrians, you know, the massacres, you know. This is David Gaunt. He wrote about our history during World War One, what they did to our people in Turks and Kurds, what they did in Turkey, in at that time it was Ottoman Empire, so around Turabdin, all of Turkey, the south north part of the southeast Turkey, north part of Iraq and Iran. All of these he writes about. They give us a history of what happened to us. Share the information. We are still here, right? But I think we had lost opportunity 20 some years ago. And when I started talking about this book, as if I'm the only one who knows about this. Now, this book is not all bad. I found, you want to show that the recipe? So there's a part in this book that talks about our food. So Assyrian food. You see that? It's dolma. And when I was reading this, I don't know how you, well, his background is his parents are from the Diaraya tribe of Hakkari Mountains. They moved to Chicago. He was born in Chicago. So he wasn't born in Middle East or anywhere. Born in Chicago, and apparently his mom or the family, when they made dolma, they made it with lamb. Us back in Tehran, my mom and my grandma being in Russia for a long time, when they made dolma, they made it with beef. I mean, I love lamb. My sister hates it, so maybe that's why we never had lamb. I don't know. But in this book, at least if nothing, we have a dolma recipe. I don't know if we can use it. These are the ingredients, and then later he says, you know, what to do with these ingredients. And he says, since we have dolma, what goes well with dolma is masta. And we have a recipe for the masta also, right? You want to show the masta recipe? So we have dolma recipe, then we have masta recipe, and after he gives that recipe, he tells us about some other great Assyrian foods like kata, flatbread, you know, with butter, flour, cooked filling. That's what kata is, I guess. Then shirva, then goes down and tells us about the holidays. So I'm not saying this is all lost, but this program brought to you this book. The value that this person put in this book, we brought it and shared it with you, regardless how many people had read it when it was published 24 years ago. This is what we do. See, one thing that is mentioned in the book, when you look at the uh, part at the end, it says, "What shall we do?" Let me read that part to you. It says, "What shall we do?" It says, "I now pray that in this 21st century we shall see the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy, with the new country of Assyria raised up by the power of God and used to bless the other nation as the work of God's hand." And it says, "We have waited." Take that writing, just put me on, please. So he says, "We have waited 2,600 years and hoping for our national home. The past is our heritage. We shall not forget it. The present is our responsibility. The future is our hope and challenge." And it says, "God bless Assyria. This is our prayer. This is our hope for the 21st century. This is our faith. This is God's promise. Assyria, the work of my hands," which actually is blessed, but that's another story. And he writes a poem, and somebody unknown. He shares a poem from somebody unknown. "O Assyrian nation that has fallen, you will be raised anew. Your sun, S-U-N, is rising, and your flag will be renewed. For God has promised that you shall be raised, and all Assyrians will give you praise." Author unknown. All right. So everything I see here, as far as hope, is based on us praying and God doing his part, right? Does that work? I have nothing against praying. Actually, I believe in the power of prayer. And my mom used to say before I was born, because her health was not very good, this group prayed and my mother was healthy enough to have me. So I believe in the power of prayer. So it's not that I don't believe in the power of prayer, but let me share this with you. Can we show that lottery? So I took a photo because I don't know, when we talk about certain things, I don't know how we communicate so you understand what I'm talking about. This is lottery. We have that in the United States. I'm sure in Europe they have it. You pick certain numbers and you pay whatever dollar, euro, whatever you spend. And every week they do the whatever they do, they choose these numbers. If the numbers that you have chosen, you hit it, you win. If there are six numbers and you pick all six numbers, millions of dollars. That's what we have in the United States. So that's the lotteries. Why am I bringing this lottery? There was this guy every day, every night, he would pray, "God, please, I want to win the lottery. God, I want to win the lottery." Every day, every night, for God knows, days, weeks, months. He kept on praying, "God, I want to win the lottery. I want to win the lottery." All of a sudden, after all this time, a voice came from heaven: "Buy a ticket. You can't win a lottery without buying a ticket. Buy the ticket, then pray to win." The guy wasn't buying the ticket. He wasn't doing anything. He was just saying, I'm praying, God, I'm praying. I want to win the lottery." Okay, buy the ticket. I don't know how close this is with our situation. As I said, lost opportunity, but I brought it up. I brought this book to share what this gentleman did way back in 24, 25 years ago. We value our brothers and sisters. We share. There's more books. I'll be sharing them all with you. The thing is that, okay, now what? Remember when earlier I said about the numbers, nobody saw it, nobody made comment or nothing like that. See, this program and this Assyria TV, this is not about how many likes or how many comments, or, well, comments would help, but it's not about that. We are doing our part. Even with this small showing Ashur, we are doing our part. I pray. Then I come and sit down and say, Lord, help me do a good program for my brothers and sisters. Don't make me look, too bad, or, maybe my hair is not as good as used to be. But overall, every one of us is doing what I think is our part. I like this book. I read it, and it goes on the shelf, right? Next to other books. There are other books that we're going to be sharing, but we will not be giving up. There is no giving up. God said this. I keep my part, right? He's not going to come down and do it for us. He didn't do it for the Jews. Israel had to fight, and they're still fighting. You like him, you don't like him, they have their country. After all these years, that's what keeps me going. One other thing is that before I finish, what do we do? Pray. I'm keeping my name. Make sure everybody knows the name, the language, the people that we have in homeland, as much as we can to support them, because they're under so much pressure. We share the history. We talk about history. We keep our culture. Like this mesta and dolma is part of our culture. Of course, one thing was missing is keskesta. It's that red stuff with the tomato, with the onions. Without keskesta, I don't eat dolma. But that's me. But that's our culture. This is our responsibility, at least from my part is all these little things, wherever I go, hey, I'm Ashuraya, I have this, of that. Keep the name going. The enemy wants to choke us. Shut up. Don't say it. You're Christian. Forget about Ashuri. Oh, no, you're not only Ashuri, you're Chaldean, you're Syrian, you're Aramean. Whatever they do, my part is keep my focus. I don't know when that day will happen, that we'll be having a highway from Ashur to Egypt. I don't know. But we are here. We're still here. And as always, at the end, we will pray and we will dance our Sheikhani. This is our culture. Ahiya Ashur Chaya. Aritum Basime. Thank you, and see you next program.
Sheikhani.